Christian Counsel by Fenelon, 21. On the proper use of crosses. We are hardly to be persuaded of the goodness of God in loading those whom he loves with crosses. Why? We say, should he take pleasure in causing us to suffer? Could he not render us good without making us miserable? Yes, doubtless, he could, for all things are possible with God. He holds in his omnipotent hands the hearts of men and turns them as he will. As a skilled workman can give direction to the stream on the summit of a hill. But able as he was to save us without crosses, he has not chosen to do it, as he has not seen fit to create man once in the full vigor of manhood, but has suffered them to grow up by degrees, made all the perils and weaknesses for infancy and youth. In this matter, he is master. We have only to adore in silence the depths of his wisdom without comprehending it. Nevertheless, we see clearly that we never could become wholly good without becoming humble, unselfish, and disposed to refer everything to God without any restless self-reflective acts. The work of grace, in detaching us from self and destroying our self-love, could not be otherwise than painful without a miracle. Neither in his gracious nor providential dealings does God work a miracle lightly. It would be as a great wonder to see a person fall asleep become in a moment dead to all self-interest and all sensitivities, as it would be to see a slumbering infant wake in the morning, a full developed man. God works in a mysterious, was in grace as well as in nature, concealing his operations under an imperceptible succession of events, and thus keeps us always in the darkness of faith. He not only accomplishes his designs gradually, but by means unseen the most simple and the most competent to the end, in order that the human wisdom may attribute the success to the means, and thus his own working be less manifest. Otherwise, every act of God would seem to be a miracle, and the state of faith wherein it is the will of God that we should live will come to an end. This state of faith is necessary, not only to stimulate the good, causing them to sacrifice their reason in a life so full of darkness, but also to blind those who, by their presumption, deserve such a sentence. They behold the works of God, but do not understand them. They can see nothing in them but the effects of material laws. They are destitute of true knowledge, for that is only open to those who distrust their own abilities. Proud human wisdom is unworthy to be taken into the counsels of God. God renders working grace slow and obscure, and then he may keep us in the darkness of faith. He makes use of the inconsistency and the ingratitude of the creature, and of the disappointments and the surfeits which accompany prosperity, to detach us from them both. He frees us from self by revealing to us our weaknesses, our corruptions, in a multitude of backslidings. All this dealing appear perfectly natural, It is by this succession of natural means that we are burned as by a slow fire. We should like to be consumed once by the flames of pure love, but such an end would scarce cost us anything. It is only excessive self-love that desires us to become perfect in a moment and so cheap a rate. Why do we rebel against the length of the way? Because we are wrapped up in self, and God must destroy an infatuation which is a constant hindrance to his work. Of what, then, can we complain? Our trouble is that we attach to creatures, and still more to self. God prepares a series of events which gradually detach us from creatures and separate us from self. The operation is painful, but is rendered necessary by our corruption, and the same cause makes it distressing. If our flesh were sound, the surgeon would use no knife. He only cuts in proportion to the depth of the wound, to the disease condition of the parts. If we suffer greatly, it's because the evil is great. Is the surgeon cruel because it cuts to the quick? Nay, on the contrary, is both love and the skill. He would treat in the same way his own and well-beloved son. It's the same with God. He never afflicts us, if we may so say, except against his own inclination. His paternal heart is not gratified by the sight of our misery, but he cuts to the quick, that he may heal the disease in our souls. He must snatch away from us whatever we cling to too fondly, though that we love irregularly and to the prejudice of his rights. He acts in this as we do by children. They cry because we take away the knife, which were their amusement, might have been their death. We weep, we become discouraged, we cry aloud, we are ready to murmur against God, and children get angry with the mothers. But God let us weep and secures our salvation. He afflicts only to amend, even when he seems to overwhelm. He means nothing but the good. It's only to spare us the evils we were preparing for ourselves. The things we now lament for the little space would have caused us to mourn forever. What we think lost was indeed lost when we seemed to have it. But now God has laid aside for us that we may inherit it in the eternity so near at hand. He only deprives us of what we cherish to teach us how to love it in purity, solidly, and moderately, and to secure to us its eternal enjoyment in his own bosom, to do us 1,000 times more good than we would ask or think of ourselves. With the exception of sin, nothing happens in this world out of the will of God. It is he who is the author, ruler, and master of all. He has numbered the hairs of our head, the leaves of every tree, the sand upon the seashore, and the drops of the ocean. When he made the universe, his wisdom went and measured every atom. It is he that breathes into us the breath of life and renewed it every moment. He it is that knows the number of our days, and that holds in his all-powerful hand the keys of the tomb to open or to shut. What we admire is that nothing in the eyes of God, a little more or less of life, is different that it disappears in the light of eternity. What matter whether This fragile vessel, this clay tabernacle, be broken and reduced to ashes a little sooner or later. Ah, what short-sighted and deceitful views are ours! We are thrown into consternation in the death of a man in the prime of life. What a dreadful loss! Exclaimed the world. Who has lost anything? The dead has lost some years of vanity, illusion, and endangered his immortal soul. God has snatched him from the midst of his iniquities, and separated him from a corrupt world and his own wickedness. The friends whom he had left, they are deprived of the poison of worldly felicity, their loss of perpetual intoxication. They carried the forgetfulness of God themselves, in which they lay song, say rather, they gain the bliss of detachment from the world through the virtue of the cross. The same bloom that saves the dying prepares the survivors by their suffering to labor courageously for their own salvation. Oh, is it not true that God is good, tender, compassionate towards our misery, even when He seems to launch His thunders at us, and we are open-mouthed in our complaints of His severity? What difference can we discover between two persons who lived a century ago? The one died 20 years before the other, but now they are both gone. The separation, which then seems so abrupt and so long, appears nothing to us, and was, in fact, but short. Those things which are severed shall soon be reunited, and no trace of the separation will be visible. We look upon ourselves as immortal, at least as having a duration for ages. Oh, folly and madness! Those who die from day to day tread upon the heels of those who are already dead. Life flows like a torrent. The which is gone is but a dream. And even while we contemplate that which now is, it vanishes and is lost in the abyss of the past. So will it be with the future. Days, months, and years glide like the billows of torrent, each hurrying along the other. A few moments more, and all is over. Ah, alas, how short will that existence then appear, which now wearies us with the sand tater's length. The disgust of life is the result of the weakness of our self-love. The sick man thinks the night will never end because he sleeps not, but is no longer than others. We exaggerate all our sufferings by our own cowardice. They're great, it's true, but they are magnified by timidity. The way to lessen them is to abandon ourselves courageously into the hands of God. We must suffer, but the end of our pain is to purify our souls and make us worthy of Him.